Hello students, let's read the problem. And it says, the graph shows the relation between the amount of money earned and the number of hours worked. What is the unit rate of this situation? Okay, so they're telling us that in this graph, there's going to be two things that they're comparing. Number one, they're comparing the amount of money that someone earns and the number of hours that the person works. Okay, and the question is asking you to find the unit rate. So if you remember a little bit about unit rate, I always tell my students to think about unit as uno in Spanish, right? And uno means this, right? So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the unit rate of this situation. Okay, so somehow my answer should have a 1 somewhere in there, right? So the amount of money earned is on the y-axis, okay? The hours that the person works is on the x-axis, okay? So basically, we are comparing, and I can write it down somewhere over here. I can say, I'm comparing the change of the y over the change of the x, where x, it's the money that he earned for working so many hours. Is that right? So that x is going to be the hours that this person already worked. Okay? So the graph, if you notice, I see a lot of points in my graph. I can choose any of those points. For example, I want to choose the first one that is here. And just make sure that you write down the 45 and the 3 where they belong. So 45, it's on the y-axis, so it goes on the numerator. 3, it's on my denominator because it's the hours that he worked. If I want to simplify this, which that's one of the things that I can do, because remember, I'm looking for the per unit for 1. So I can divide this by 3. And if I do that, I'm gonna get a 15 over 1. So what does the 15 represent? Well, 15 is the money that he what? 15 is the money that he earns when he works how many hours? 1 hour. Very good. Okay, so right there I can see something like this. He will earn $15 when he works how many hours? 1 hour. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. What happens if I use another point? Would I still get the same answer? Okay, so let's find any other point that you want. Okay, you can choose any point around here. So I'm gonna choose this one, which is change of the y over the change of the x. So that will be 180 over 12. Okay, and let's suppose that you're not sure what number is the biggest factor that they both have in common. You can always just divide by a number that you know for sure it can be divided by, which in this case they're both even numbers, so I can divide by 2. Is that right? So I am gonna get 90 over 6. Is that right? And if you say, Miss, I don't know what else can I divide it by. I don't know what the biggest factor for them too. That's perfectly fine. You can go ahead and divide again by the next number that you think that is possible to divide by, and you can say they're both even numbers, Miss. I can divide by 2. So basically what you're finding right now is that 180 is the same as 90 over 6. Okay, that's basically what we're doing. We're looking for equivalent ratios. When I divide by 2, I get 45 over 3. Isn't that 45 over 3 the one that I saw somewhere over here? Right? Okay, what about if I simplify this one again? What would I get? Well, I can divide by 3. Is that right? And when I divide by 3, then I still gonna get what? 15 over 1. So basically, it took me a little bit of time to simplify from this number, which the first ratio, to get to this one. I could have divided everything at once by one number. But what I'm trying to show you guys is that you can actually divide by any number, especially if you know that they're even numbers, you can always divide by 2, and then you can take it from there. So all the numbers that you see, they're called equivalent ratios. Okay, so now I'm looking for my answer that says $15 per hour. Is that right? So look at the answer choices. It says $45 per hour. Is that right? No, the 45, it's actually $45 for 3 hours, which is one of the first one that I have here. $45, that's how much he earns if he was to work 3 hours. So no, this would be for 3 hours. Right? What about the 15? Come back over here. 15 is the money that he earns, right? And 1 is the hours that he will need to work. So letter B says $15 per hour. So that looks very much what I'm looking for. Look at the next one. It says $45 every 2 hours. The $45 we agree, it's right here, is for 3 hours. So no, that cannot be my answer. Right? So be very careful with that. And then one of the last ones over here, $315 per day. That's a little bit too way off, right? Another thing that you could have done is actually look at the graph and say, if this is a 3, but this is kind of like estimating, right? If this is a 3, then this would be 1, this would be 2, more or less, right? And I'm looking for 1. So if you look over here and you go up, that number is less than $45. And that will be my unit rate because it has a 1 right there. This is my unit. Okay, so that's how I can eliminate letter D, because that would not be true, right? And this one is actually talking about per day, and we're talking about hours. Okay, so be careful with that. So what's my only answer for this one? Yes, $15 per hour.